So the first and foremost part of it is a range trend itself a good enough spot to buy? It is. It is. You definitely want to be looking at. So we can mark a range trend and we can kind of talk through this. So it is definitely a good enough spot to buy. Like you would be making a range trend even right now off the floating level. You can see this is a floating level. It had back tested the move before and it broke the current part of its range. So this would be, you know, count as your floating level. The criteria for the floating level is kind of the first thing to identify because that becomes your first spot to buy, which creates your range trend. So you have a couple different ways you can handle this. Here's your backside here. You could maybe even diminish this back down to maybe a localized origin point that broke. So this might be like a 3-minute origin right here. Right there. Yeah, it just looks like a 3-minute just the way the chart is. Like, I'm just really good at seeing origins. Maybe you're even at that point too, IHVET, where you can just be like, oh, that's that time frame. It's just you just get to that point over time, right? It's just yeah, I know which ones are which ones. It could be a 1 minute here, but less likely a one. Just yeah, it breaks down there. So it's the 3 minute. So perfect. We found the right one. And that's what's holding the move. So that's kind of where you get that floating level from. So this is your floating level, right? So this becomes, you know, you can combo level this in the future. That's already tested. And what can make this a floating level is if it breaks below the ladder point, which means it's breaking its most interior range, right? So you could just say that, oh, it broke it's got to break its range, which its range would be right here, like the range that this is moving off of. You could even say on a micro time frame this is its range, but I believe if you move to a 4, there's that separation between there a little bit. Well, not really actually. So you could actually use this as the range. So this you could use as the range right there. When you break below that ladder point, then you can the only thing I would say is you've got an origin here. So right, like that would be the only thing to be aware of with breaking this ladder point. So you either need to kind of hard close under this ladder point, which would cause a much bigger dump, or you just need to break the range, and holding this origin is perfectly fine. So that would be kind of the first part of this. If you're thinking about, like, if you want to create the architecture, let's create it from the top down layer. And the top down layer is finding that float point. So that float is that you break this range. You've got an untested level that's broken the range. That becomes a float point. So this becomes the base of your trend in the future. We don't know where that will be. We're on a 1 hour time frame. Okay, there you go. This now becomes a floating level. You can delete this. You can delete this. You don't need that stuff anymore. This is your floating level, right? So this becomes the spot where your trend will get created. That becomes a good buy spot first off, because it has broken the range and it's now a floating level. It's the level that broke the range, right? You could even combo level this if you wanted to. There's no 15, so maybe you have a 5 here. The wick of the 5 is still tested in there as well. I wouldn't go for the 3 here. You could try it. I wouldn't go for the 3. An hourly where the only combination is a 3, I would just go for the hourly here. You maybe go for the 1 minute of that test, also the 3. It's a pretty decent combination level, but I don't think it does. It doesn't. So, yeah, maybe you could go for the 3, but I think at that point I would stick with the hourly. Personal choice. I personally would stick with the hourly here. Maybe it hits that one, but I don't think that's a justifiable trade in my opinion. Okay, yep. So I don't think that's a justifiable trade. And there's your range trend. Creation to test, right? So that's your range trend. That's it right there. Is that lower also a floating level? I wouldn't use combo floats like that. Not yet. If at all, I wouldn't use them. You can retest the level, but yeah, you're going to miss something higher time frame that's just going to supersede it in the moment, and you're going to be basing a micro decision off something that's happening on a much bigger time frame right in front of your eyes. There's another one right here, right? Floating levels become great spots to buy. Floating level. Was a previous range broken? Yeah, the ladder was stopped, right? Like you broke down below the range. Very simple. If you have an untested level and it breaks its ladder point, becomes a perfect re-entry, which gives you your range trend. Right there. And that would give you your range trend from here to here. So they're pretty easy to find when you know how to find them. They're pretty easy to find. You know, just be aware that like I didn't look at the other time frames. Like I'm literally looking at one time frame right now to make this a quick, easy example. So just be mindful of that. You break this trend, go to this trend. Where's your next one? That's not tested. Did this break its ladder point? So that would be one right there. Here, right? You actually had it hit twice. Once right there when that was broken. And this one right here. Come on. See? You don't need this one. Slicing through the charts. Right? So that's assuming you did all the work on the different time frames. Yeah, you definitely want to do the work, but I'm even just doing like a very simple example here of what like a floating level would look like. Back test a hold, create an untested level. Does it break below the range that made that level? So this is what created that level. Does it break below that? Yes or no? If yes, it's a floating level. Answer is yes, that's now a floating level. The question becomes here, okay, is this a floating level? Yes or no? It's not yet. Once it breaks below what created it, right? So you can see this is the range that creates it. Like this is the lowest point in the ladder, meaning that this is the range that is responsible for creating this level. If you break below this range here, it creates a floating level here. So not a floating level yet. Floating level. Entry to create range trend. You can combo level this if you want to. There's a good 15 combo right there. That would be what you were asking, IHVED, about like a combo float would be right there. So that's where you can use your combination level. So now you're starting to make a combo level. Nothing on the 5, possibly something on the 1, but not going to be anything on the 3. Yep, nothing on the 3, possibly only on the 1. I have a feeling I'm going to break this if I go to the 1, but let's do it. Are we brave? Let's be brave. Nailed it, yes. No, hit the wrong level. Possibly 1, but not even certain that there's a 1 here. The 1 is really, really close. The 1 is right there. Yeah, that's pretty, like you're like $1 off. Like it doesn't matter. It's like literally $1 difference. There it is right there. Pause. There it is right there. And then so Ty, you asked, no, IHVED asked, is this a good spot for a buy? Yeah, absolutely. You just have to do your due diligence to find, like, for example, if we were out here testing it in this moment, you might go up to like this level here, for example. Like you might test, this looks like this might have been like a localized 1 minute origin right here that held up the move, 1 hour time frame. This could be a 5 minute actually. Like you may go out here and test slightly above it to get that. So scale your entry to where your trend is, right? Because I can't tell you right now if we go down here and then go above it. Obviously from 3153 all the way to 31,000 is not a good entry on range. Like you're like what, 3% above it? Like that doesn't make sense. But if it was to happen right here, right, it might be a nice spot to say, oh, like here was probably an origin level right here. It looks like you know, it was trying to hold the backside of the valley here. So like it looks like it went and tested this backside, tests it, holds it, creates its own like little interior origin kind of thing, and that becomes resistance. So that like if you're right here, that makes sense. But obviously I can't tell you that. But maybe this makes sense. But the further you go, the less likely that is. Yeah, it's not really a spot I don't think I would take anymore. So yeah, simple as that. That's not a spot to take. It's too far. You're not gonna go above the trend, you know, 2% and then, you know, all of a sudden. But yeah, it becomes a great spot to buy. You just, you know, what was here? What is this? Some kind of reverse level that's been being hit over and over? Like this reverse level, which is maybe onset by this origin right here. Like maybe there's an origin right here. Maybe that's preset from somewhere back in here. Maybe there's like an origin like this or like this, but you know, we could see there's one right here for sure. So like this is just slightly above trend that can hold the level. So like you can, you know, scale your targets within reason, right? Like here's your range trend. If the range trend breaks, it's going to go to the next range trend. I believe the next range trend is, you'd have to start moving time frames here. Oof. You're at an origin next, so your next move would be to like maybe right here. Or even something right here. Looks like this could have possibly created an origin micro time frame. I'm not going to go through it and look, but you break your range trend, that's where you're going next, right? So, because that range trend is like bridges and switches from the beginning of the move, right? So then, yeah, you have definitely really good entry on range trends. Just because once they break, it's the next piece, right? And then when this range trend breaks, it'll go to that one next, right? I'm gonna catch up on chat here. The wick can be used too, Jasic. I would like to look for combo levels in that scenario. I kind of take it with a grain of salt. I look at the move each independently and see what's possible in the move in relationship to what happened. I'm a big fan of finding combo levels and doing it off of a combo level because I just like doing that risk. And then if I miss the level, I try to just get the second entry on the pullback and just not take such a greedy point. I like to, like in this case here, for example, like if you're asking to use, you know, the body of the wick, I would go to the wick and I would say, yeah, there's like 1.5%. There's no shot I'm taking that wick. Dude, this thing's gonna fly up and I'm gonna liquidate it and it's still gonna move down. From the body to the combo level, 0.3. It's justifiable at that point to go for the combo level. If it was only like 0.14, I wouldn't want to miss the trade over such a small margin. But you know, kind of at 30% here, it kind of makes sense to go after the combo level, because what if it goes like 5% above the combo level, like 5-6%, and then you're here and then all of a sudden it's like you're sweating, right? So, but you know, from this wick, that's a no-go territory, because this is like a 1.6. Yeah, maybe if you're trading spot, but not leverage for sure. I would just more like to go after the combo level. So the floating level is created when the range is broken, or even if it simply ladders down. Yeah, whatever creates the level that can be a candidate for a float. The activation point of that being an actual float level is when you break that ladder point. Like, this could have been a float if it was untested. The level has to be untested. Like this here could have been one. In this moment, it's like, oh, it tests on micro time frame. This could have been it if it goes straight down and breaks the ladder point. But if it goes back and tests it, it can't be a float. And it tests it. So this can no longer be a floating level. It has to be an untested level to be a floating level. This one could be one right now. If it breaks this. It didn't. Damn, no floating level. Okay, this one could be one. If it breaks this. Damn, nope. So you see what I mean? Like, you just have to kind of keep looking for them. Okay, this could be one. Does it test it? It has to break this. No. Jesus, dude. Come on, man. This could be a floating level. And it was. Right there. Perfect entry. And breaks that, creates their new floating level here. Combo level inside of there. I'm sure this has a combo too, though you get a better entry off the combo as well. Where is it? Okay, dude. We didn't mark it. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure this has a combo in it. That's it. Just combo to there. That's it. A little bit of a better entry on that trade. Yep. Yeah, and then it just whatever this is. So using this example, you just need You just use, there's a hold level, price action. I think I just answered this as well. Price action comes back to test the hold level. Yep. This clears up a lot about floats. Yeah, this is a pretty big one, guys. I definitely like this platform of recording it and talking about it after, instead of coming back to it months later. The backside could be a floating. I'd have to look at where I said that in the video. I'm not sure about that. The backside could be floating. Notice you said in the video the backside could be floating. Can other things be floating levels and produce range trend? No. Only holds. Nope, no other criteria. This one is a great method, and I don't know we say this every lesson, but this one's a game changer. This one I would agree with JCap. This one is a game changer because this is just like a piece of trend magic that I haven't given out before, but yeah. This is a huge component to the charts. How to properly create a range trend, right? It's actually quite a simple method. It's just not so simple, I suppose, but it can be easy once you know how to do it. But it's just, you know, finding those pieces is obviously insanely hard. You can trade only floating levels and be on profits all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Well, like here's a perfect example. I just used the current landscape of what's happening with Bitcoin. I didn't do anything special here. I just used the current landscape. It's not like I went and did some, you know, curated example. Like this is literally just what's happening with Bitcoin right now. You find the floating level. There's multiple spots that you could justify that entry on that floating level, right? Like there's a lot of different ways in which you can justify. I think the entry was like here, it's combination level in here somewhere. Yeah, you just identify that there is a floating level that becomes your first entry, and then you can decide what you want to do from there. Like if you see it, you know, just go back to this, and so you've identified a floating level, you can enter there, right? So that can become your first entry. You can start taking this stuff steps further and saying, okay, well, this is the ladder that is responsible for this float. So if you stay above this ladder, like this becomes your target to exit the trade, because this then becomes like a point of polarity where you're saying, okay, if you hold this, time to exit the trade. If you can't hold this, you're going down to go after the next one, right? Because then you can use floats on the bottom too, right? Like so then you could go. I'm sure there's other stuff. I'm just marking whatever's on the screen. Like you just identify the floating level, and if this holds the move, then you get out of the trade, right? Yeah, this is holding the move. It's right there. It's holding the move. Then you can get out on your retest right here. So then you could just exit your trade right here if you wanted, right? You just exit the trade right there because it's going to go up after your range trend. So you could hedge to the trend. You could hedge to the range trend, right? But like this is holding up the move. So it's not creating your next float. Your next float would be here, which means it would have to break below this. So it means it would have to go down here in order to come here. So then you could take if this didn't hold the move, your exit would be here. But then alternatively, you just, you know, exit out of your trade right there. Like this is 2 1-hour candles. That's a lot of time. I'm sure if we broke this down, you could find your exit here. Yeah, okay, here, right here. You just exit on this retouch. You just exit your long here. So like, who cares if you didn't hit your perfect target? Come on, like your target was down. I think it was like right here. It's like, oh, 7.5%, but instead you could have only got 6.5%. So you get 5% instead of. Wait, that's not even the right measurement. Should be from here. Instead of 8%, you got 7.3. Like, pick your battles. And then even if you did pick 8%, you just get out on the retouch. Or you could get out somewhere down here. Like, these are still 15-minute candles. This is still 6.5%. Even this, as the worst case scenario, is still 5.7. Like, pick your battles, man. You know, like, it's, who cares if you didn't get 8%? Like, there's still a logical exit. Like, there's, you know, so, and it's as simple as that. And the next entry becomes range trend again. So then you just use the targets as dictation to, are you going to create a new float? Yes or no? This is telling you no. So it's just telling you get out of your trade. Very simple. Just goes down. Does it ladder? No. So it's going to go back up after the trend, right? And it does right there. Now, I don't know if that's quite you know, front runs the trend a little bit because some other level, fine, you know, but it's still going to go after the trend until this, you know, ladders down, and then it'll stop going after the range trend. So then you're going to get into a queue of either go down and hit lower ladder points, or you're going to get to the queue of continue to hold this and break your range trend. Yeah, this is a big one, for sure. Related to range trends, if you're getting the last cycle of your trend, that'd be a polarized moment. Depends what you mean by last cycle of your trend, I suppose. As in, if you don't break... oh, thanks for asking how it was this morning, Sugar. I saw your message. Thanks, dude. I'm still feeling sick, but hang it in there. If you don't break the last cycle in the 1 minute time frame, then you're reversing the hold level. It hits confirming reverse. If you don't hit the last level. Well, I think there's a lot of stuff that could confirm reversal. I think polarity is the one that you have to find the truest form of polarity. 100% makes sense. Probably the most powerful thing I've heard since the day you told me about holds and breaks. Yeah, this is a big one. Range trends, I've kind of kept this locked and keyed away. But it's definitely, I'm glad you guys see how important this is, because I hate to be the one to say it because I'm biased, but I would agree that this is probably one of the most important things I've ever discussed. Since you could enter on the test of a float and use a range trend as your trigger. So could you enter on the test of a float? Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. You could absolutely use your range as a trigger. You're talking about more of a position trade now. I think at that point, you know, Matt, what you would want to, you know, instead of that, I would just go back to this example and I would say identify what would, like you've got your float here, okay? So I kind of just talked to us. We'll do it again. You've got your float here, so you know if this is going to be your next target, or if you are going to go after something much lower, it must, like, this is the thing, it must break this. Like, it has no choice but to break this. It must break below that, even if it goes like this and back up. That's fine. That opens a new queue of actions. The more important thing to understand here, like, understand that, but then say if this hold level holds it up, it's not creating the next set of criteria. So this becomes your target, this hold level, the body, the combo, whatever. The only thing that's important is that it doesn't ladder the move. So if it does not ladder the move, and you can say, here's like the wick of the level, here's the body, here's the combo, it doesn't matter which it tests, it's all testing the same thing. As soon as it holds this, you know to get out of your trade. Like, literally as soon as it tests this, you know to get out of your trade. There's the test. Okay, good, get out of your trade. Look for the spot to exit. It bounces right up, has that crazy reaction. Whether you took this as a profit take or you wanted to see if it would go much lower, it's up to you. Could have went after this range, and you could have easily also been in like a 20% move, right? You could have stayed in this trade, and you could have easily been after a 13 to 14% move here. And so you just identify the spot that would hold the move and you get out, because the move is already holding. So this has a lot of implications, not only across the range trend, but across how you can look at moves and how they develop. So please be aware of that this is not just about understanding what a float attacks. What a float attacks also can tell you when a move is laddering up. Because now what you guys aren't thinking about is this. This range trend attacked this float right here, right? So that's the thing you're not thinking of, right, when you see this. So this is the target for exit, but more so what it means for the architecture of the move is important here, right? Excuse me. Then you just get out of your trade, because look at how much profits you would have forfeit had you not seen this. You would just be here, and sure, if you stayed long enough, you could be, you know, getting this re-entry, but those are just trades you missed, and like profits you didn't lock up, and yeah, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I could have made 8%, but now I'm at 1.8. I guess I should just take my 2% before it goes back to shit, and then you could have just exited at 5 again. Like, it just takes away those errors. 5-6%. It just takes away those errors, because really your exit should be here, and then you should be looking at your next trade, this as a hedge, even this bounce, because you know the architecture of the move is telling you that this move is being supported forth. That's the more important piece, right? Yeah, and then the range trend can be entry. You can see it right here on the bottom. The range trend can be entry on either side. You're just between two range trends. See? You're just between the range trends. Again, it's not like I curated this. I just marked whatever's on the screen right now. So you break that and you make a new criteria, right? You make a new criteria here, and that's your new float right there, because you've made a new criteria, so you've made new floats.